Welcome back to Stocklabs for another market recap. We are through with the first week of October, so into Q4. And it was kind of a mixed week for markets. I sort of mentioned in the prior recap that was going to be looking for something that was mostly choppy with a upward-ish bias. The Qs closed 1.8% to the upside. S&P was up 0.5%, but the Dow was down 0.25%, and IWM was down 2%. So we were mainly choppy Monday to Thursday, and then there was a big up day on Friday after the NFP numbers came out way stronger than everybody expected. Market opened way down, completely reversed everything, and went pretty solidly green. So yeah, like I mentioned, really choppy, big swings day to day, and yeah, that's kind of just how the market is right now. So pretty tough sledding, but as far as the Qs and the S&P go, it was a positive week. TLT was down, so bond market again is still made new highs in yields, especially on the long end, 10s and 30s. And TLT was not liking that one bit. Crude had a big down week this past week, so it's kind of been in free fall for the last several days, going back, probably at least a week or so or more. Gold flattish, down 1%, whatever. Kind of nothing to say about that. And yeah, that's about it. The leadership stocks that we follow for just, these are the ones that drive the action. Green across the board. So Nvidia up 5%, Google up 5%, Meta up 5%, Tesla 4, Microsoft 3, Apple 3.5, Microsoft also 3.5, Amazon flat. So this is where all the strength was. This is why the Nasdaq was green. IWM, these are not part of that. So broadly speaking, stocks were down, but the big boys, they had a good week. So the Nasdaq had a good week. Even the S&P managed, green. So if we look at our breadth by industry, you can see it was negative across the board. Even technology, median tech stock down 1% versus the Nasdaq up almost 2%. That's pretty big divergence. Healthcare down 3%. Materials down 4.5%. Led by whole commodity complex is led by crude, and already highlighted crude had that big down week. Utilities down 1.25%. I mean, this is actually probably not that bad considering what the bond market did this week. I mean, utilities have just been a nightmare, with how yields have been going the last several months. And consumer down 3%, financials down 1%, and what's left? Services down 2%, and industrials down 1.5%. So yeah, negative across the board, despite some of the, despite the Nasdaq and the S&P being up. If you just looked at the index, subsector wise, okay, we've got some semiconductors at the top, but they're the only sector that was up 5%. So everything else that was green was barely green. Like I said before, breadth across the board was negative. You could see even as soon as I get to the second page already, these things turn all negative, and there's 8 pages. So yeah, breadth was not good this week. So that's kind of a little disconcerting. If we look at breadth by market cap, just go here, date, 1 to 5 billion. Okay, just get rid of these splits for a second. Okay, 1 to 5 billion, down 2%, kind of in line with the Russell. 5 to 10 billion, also down 2%, more of the same. Large caps down 1.1%, so no help there. 50 to 100 billion, mega caps down 0.5%, which is not terrible, but still divergent from the S&P. And 100 billion plus market cap stocks are also down 0.5%. So anything 50 billion and up was down, 0.5% on average. So you can see that, broadly speaking, there was selling going on despite indices closing positive. So I would consider this a very weak breadth um, week. So, the rally, there wasn't much behind it. We had a handful of stocks, 6, 7 stocks that ramped hard, that dragged the indices up, but the rest of the market was not participating from, what we can see here. So, rally might be, unless breadth sort of fans out a little bit, rally is kind of on shaky footing. For intelligence this week, okay, technology is bullish, financials are bullish, and bear semiconductors is bullish. So bear semiconductors, I'm going to say that the tech and semiconductors kind of cancel each other out because they're very tightly coupled, right? Semiconductors sort of lead the main themes of the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq is tech. So um, you know, we're not going to be able to pick anything out too bullish this week from Stocklabs. And if we look at the inverse of this to check for downside, okay, Dow Jones Internet Bear is bearish. So bullish Dow, Dow tech type stocks. VIX is bearish. I know VIX has been flagging bearish for a long time. It had, a few good sessions recently, but Stocklabs is still considering this ETF as bearish. Gold miners are bearish. So, like I said, gold's been trending down. Gold miners, they usually go along for the ride. Another bear VIX. Regional banks bearish. So this sort of goes with the FAS bullish reading from positive side of the screen. Got another VIX bearish, and short oil and gas is bearish. So bullish oil and gas, and Tesla bear ETF is bearish, so bullish Tesla. So I mean, overall this week, I would say you're looking at more kind of what I would call high velocity chop. You know, big down session followed by big up session, this sort of thing. Overall, I still think that we are, trying to manifest a little bit of a bullish trend here. A lot of the, charts, if you want to call it that, are going to be looking like they broke out on Friday. So you see, you had all this chop, and then the Nasdaq, it really just took out this entire range Friday. Now, whether that, if it falls immediately back down into it, that would be pretty bearish. But if it sort of hangs out around this upper area, you're gonna, market's gonna want to explore some of these higher levels, in my opinion. So, like I said, we're coming off some very oversold conditions from the past couple weeks. So makes sense. A lot of protection has been bought all in here, and any dips, as long as they're not, historic, um, generally that vol sells off, and people take that as a chance to, reposition long and press the market higher. So all of that being said, I think this week, like I said, a lot of chop, but, directionally, I think to the upside. There is one wild card, and that is, there was a big, uh, developing crisis in the Middle East between Israel, Palestine, other players all chiming in with what their stance is. Crude is expected to open up big, and if that pressures yields, it will pressure stocks to the downside. All these things are coupled together, but you don't know how these things play out. So I mean, investors can always just shrug it off, like who cares what's going on in the Middle East? It's always a mess, and just buy stocks anyway. So I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but I think in general, like I mentioned, market got really bearish last couple weeks. Market participants did. So, having said, having seen that, after the big NFP beat, market still reversed higher. I think now the pressure is to the upside, and any dips are going to be used to add risk long. So that's it from me. Hope you guys have a good week out there. And yeah, we'll be back next week to check it all out. So thanks for tuning in. Bye.